Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess. The goddess next door takes on the threat of a deadly digital diva driven to destroy the world in this action-packed, all-new Isis series adventure. Get Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess featuring a bonus pin-up and the other two books in the Cyber Goddess saga at online bookstores everywhere today. You often hear me talking about how Bubba and Tiny are trading a beta male inmate's booty in exchange for a little Debbie snack cake. Now I want my viewers to do some critical thinking about those little Debbie snack cakes as related to a man's manhood and a man's freedom. Now a little Debbie snack cake only costs 50 cents at your bodegas here in New York City, or at one of your Arab corner stores all across the country, or one of these 7-Elevens. And when you think about how little value a little Debbie snack cake like a fudge round has in exchange for the intangibles of manhood that they're traded for in the prison system, that should give many of the men out here pause and make them really think about what they're going to sacrifice if they go out here and commit some sort of crime. Now, when it comes down to many of these males out here, especially these beta males, they will go out here and get caught up in their feelings and then wind up participating in some sort of violence that leads to them winding up in prison. And because they're not critically thinking about what they're going to sacrifice, they wind up going out here participating in an act of violence that leads to them winding up getting arrested. And when they get arrested, they're so caught up in their feelings about getting even with the next person, they're not thinking about what they sacrificed to get even with that next person. And what they sacrifice is the intangible of their freedom. And that intangible of freedom is an extremely valuable one, because without that intangible of freedom, you can't go out here and do what you need to do to take care of yourself. Unfortunately, many beta males get so caught up in their feelings about trying to get the next guy, they don't see how they're going to wind up getting themselves in the big picture. And because they're so caught up in their feelings about getting that person, they don't understand that once they get caught, they're going to wind up losing their freedom at first, and they're going to wind up locked up inside of the county jail, where they are going to go from a person who was able to go out here and do things on their own terms to being forced to submit to the authority of these corrections officers inside of the jail. And inside of the jail, the correction officer is the one who tells you when to get up, when to shower, when to eat, when to take classes or work, and when to go to sleep. So you go from having the freedom of choice to do what you want to do in life to being dictated to by this corrections officer inside of this county jail. And as your case goes to trial, you're still being dictated to by the CO and the guards, and you can't even find a way to go outside and do the things that you want to do because you're on trial. And after you get convicted for that trial, you go from the jail to the penitentiary, and the penitentiary is a harsher environment than some of these jails, and it's in both the jail and the penitentiary that you as a man wind up not only losing your freedom, but there is the place where you wind up losing your dignity. Now, many of these guys, they may be the baddest guys on the street when they're so-called thugs on the street or a bad boy, but inside of the prison system, you are just another bitch. And that's what happens to many of these guys in the prison system, because they find out it's another set of rules inside the cage. Because once you get inside the cage, it's a different set of rules. And again, just like the jail, the CO tells you when you can get up, tells you when you can eat, when you can shower, and what you're going to do in a day. And as this is going on, you have to deal with these other inmates, and these other inmates have nothing to lose. And it's in that place of nothing to lose where a man can possibly wind up losing his dignity, because once a man winds up inside of the penitentiary system, what happens is that he does not really have access to his family because the penitentiary is far away, and oftentimes the people who you trusted to be able to try to support you on the outside, they wind up forgetting who you are. So in the beginning, some of these guys will have girlfriends who will send them sneakers and care packages filled with white underwear and socks and some house shoes. But eventually, those people start to forget who you are because they run into another guy on the street and they start entertaining them. And that guy starts telling her not to send you any more stuff and to not put any money on your books. And then what happens to a guy inside the prison system, because he's only working for 10 cents an hour at some of these jobs, is he doesn't have enough money. And this is what leads to some of these males winding up having to trade themselves in exchange for that Little Debbie snack cake, which only costs 50 cents at that bodega, at that Arab corner store, or that 7-Eleven. But inside of the penitentiary, that Little Debbie snack cake is $1.50. And the reason why it's $1.50 is because you are in a place where you are confined with other inmates, and because the COs and the people there control, the commissary, they also control the prices, and they know that these items have high value to the prisoners because the prisoners can't afford to buy food because the food there is absolutely disgusting. And many people sustain themselves primarily on things like your Little Debbie snack cakes, your ramen noodles, and your Fritos chips. And this is how many people get through a day. And what happens to many of your inmates who don't really have money on their books because their girlfriends are out here with one of your homies, or they just practically forget you, or people in your family die, then what happens is this man winds up trading his dignity in order to be able to sustain himself inside of that prison. So when you see these guys out here and they're trading booty in exchange for a Little Debbie snack cake, it comes from a place of desperation. And that desperation comes because this male did not do any critical thinking, and because he didn't do any critical thinking when he was free and think about his long-term freedom, this is what leads to him winding up sacrificing his dignity and his self-respect in exchange for that Little Debbie snack cake or that packet of ramen noodles, which is probably $1.50 or $2 inside of the penitentiary, because in the penitentiary, again, the prices are higher because they have a captive audience, so they profit at the expense of the inmate. And if the inmate doesn't have the money, then he's winding up trading his backside for a couple of Little Debbie snack cakes or ramen noodles or some Fritos chips. And that's why a man has to really think critically when he's out on the outside, because he does not want to wind up on the inside trading his manhood and trading his dignity in exchange for stuff that he could get at a local grocery store for 50 cents or $1 at a local supermarket. I mean, 4 ramen noodles are $1 at a supermarket, but they're $1 to $1.50 to $2 inside of a penitentiary. And again, a lot of guys out in there are trading their backsides and their dignity for some ramen noodles and trading themselves for Little Debbie snack cakes, or being traded by other inmates because they are weaker males and they are forced to submit to other males in addition to the CO. So this is not a situation you want to be in as a man. You don't want to wind up in that whole penitentiary system, and it's not really a joke when you wind up in there, because it's one of the most horrifying places you can be. And that's why a man really has to think before he acts out here, because if he makes the wrong move, or he does the wrong thing, he can easily wind up inside of this penitentiary, and he can wind up being traded for these little 50-cent Little Debbie snack cakes, these 50-cent bags of Fritos chips, a 25-cent pack of ramen noodles. And you have to think about that in the context of your life. Is your life worth being sacrificed for a 50-cent snack cake, which can easily be purchased at a grocery store? Is your backside and your dignity worth being sacrificed for a 50-cent Little Debbie snack cake, which can be purchased at a grocery store, or a pack of ramen noodles, which you can get for $1 at a supermarket, or a 12-pack for maybe $2 or $3 at one of the 99-cent stores? Is that worth the sacrifice that you make when you go out here and do something stupid? That's something I want many black males to really think about, because this is what happens to a lot of males out here. They don't really think about this until they get inside the penitentiary, and they wind up having to trade things like their dignity, their manhood, and their self-respect, all because they wound up getting inside of this box, and they're trying to survive, and they're not really thinking about that final fate, and they're not thinking about the value of that Little Debbie fudge round. Again, 50 cents is what a man is sacrificing his dignity for, all because he didn't understand the intangible of his freedom. Because a man who understands the intangible of his freedom understands that the best way to avoid these type of situations is to not get into them in the first place, because he understands he has too much to lose, and a man has too much to lose to go out here and risk it by getting into something stupid. Because it's easy to get into something stupid because things can happen out of nowhere, but that's why you have to have critical thinking, and you cannot get into your feelings, because your feelings can lead to you winding up in a situation where you wind up losing a lot as related to your life. You wind up losing your freedom, you wind up losing your dignity, and you wind up losing the most important intangible of all, which is time. And time is something that once you lose it, you can't get it back. And once you can't, because you can't get time back, you wind up losing valuable time out of your life, especially when you're young. And this is something a lot of young guys don't really think about when they go out here and act a fool. They don't understand that you're going to lose years of your life, and you're going to be trading a lot of your dignity, all for something that costs 50 cents in a grocery store. And that's one of the reasons why most black men really need other men to give them guidance, to keep them from getting into trouble that could lead to them winding up in the prison system, and winding up in a situation where they're trading their dignity and their manhood for something that only cost 50 cents at a grocery store. Now, if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. And if you want to pick up some of my men's issues books like Stop Simpin' and The Man Crisis, you can find those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them on Smashwords, the iBookstore, and Google Play. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, E-Steam: The Sands of Time. It's action and adventure in ancient Egypt in this terrific teen time travel romance. Get your copy of E-Steam: The Sands of Time at your favorite online bookseller today.